Well, we've been working our way through the first letter that the Apostle John wrote to the churches that he pastored in Asia. He had two purposes for writing his letter. The first was to expose and reject doctrinal errors that were being taught by false teachers that were preaching a different gospel than he and the other apostles had taught. The second was to help believers have the assurance of their salvation by giving them some simple tests to see if they were actually true followers of Christ. There are three themes that John keeps coming back to in his letter. They are love, obedience, and truth. However, John is not simply repeating himself. Each time he comes back to one of those themes, he looks at it from a different angle and goes deeper into it. 43 times in this short letter, it's only 5 chapters long, 43 times in his short letter, he admonishes readers to know the real truth. He loves that word know, so that you may know. Test yourself, examine yourself, so you know the truth. And he contrasts the truth of Christ to the lies that the false teachers were propagating. In our passage today, he weaves all three of those themes, love, obedience, and truth, weaves them all together to show that they're not three separate teachings, but they all go hand in hand. In the second chapter, John introduced us to the idea that if we truly know Christ, we will follow his commands. And he looked specifically at the command to love one another. But the emphasis in chapter 2 was on fellowship. And we've talked about that quite a bit. When we join a church or we start attending a church, we are joining a fellowship of believers. And we learned what fellowship is. True biblical fellowship, according to the Bible, is not just getting together with people. It's not just a fellowship lunch. If we're there in the same room, but we're not doing the rest of it, we're really not having fellowship. True fellowship is when people come together for a common purpose. And there are a lot of fellowships out there. We talked about some of those last week. You know, the Elks Club and the Lions Club. And there's all these different fellowships. Sometimes they're called fellowships. Sometimes they have that in their titles. But they are a group of people that agree with a certain cause. Each of those organizations, if you read their charter, it says, we are here to do this. They have something they want to do to help society in some way. And so they are joining together. They're having luncheons and dinners and fundraisers and meetings and doing all this kind of stuff. But they're coming together not just to get together. They're coming together because they agree with that purpose. We join the fellowship of believers because we agree with the cause of Christ. We say we want to be part of fulfilling his mission on earth. And I realize that first off, I need other people to challenge me to do a better job. Secondly, I realize that we've got a better easier way, or we're going to do it quicker if we partner together to do it. There is strength in numbers. All of us working together can accomplish God's purpose better than one of us working alone. Amen? So as Christians, our common purpose is to accomplish Christ's mission on earth. We come together in fellowship to fulfill the one another commands that we talked about several months ago. We come together to exhort one another, to pray for one another, to encourage one another, and to spur. I don't like that word spur because I think of that horse getting those spurs in its side. But that's one of the things. We come together and allow people to spur us or give us a little kick in the rear at times and say, you're not doing what you signed up to do. Let me encourage you with a little shove. And sometimes that shove is painful, but we know that other people are challenging us for our own good. John teaches that one proof that we belong to Christ is that we have fellowship with one another. And we've talked about that quite a bit. As believers, we should enjoy fellowship with other believers. And we should want to be around other believers because we know there's strength in multiple people working together. We say, sometimes they rub me the wrong way, but really, maybe it's because I kind of need to change, And so we actually look forward to getting together with people because we know that iron sharpens iron and that through that fellowship, we're going to become stronger in the long run. Even though most of us agree we should work together. How many of you know that's not always easy to do? Let's face it. There are times when another believer will rub us the wrong way. There are times when the pastor will say something from the pulpit that, I wish he hadn't have said that. But that's good for us. That's one of the things we're supposed to do. We don't always agree on everything. We all have preferences and ideas about how things should be done. And they don't always line up with what the person next to us thinks. Some of you guys are married to somebody that doesn't always agree with you. In fact, probably most of you are married to somebody, if you're married, that doesn't always agree with you. Like they say, opposites attract, and that's true. We need to agree on the important things, though. In this passage today, John talks about the family relationship. He talked about the fellowship. We're coming together because we want to join with people who have the same ultimate goal. We all have different ways of reaching the goal and different ideas and how that should work sometimes. But the ultimate goal, we agree on that. So we say we're going to come together in fellowship to accomplish that. But now he looks at all these things from a different angle. We come together and we work together because of the relationship we have with one another. Because not only are we joining a fellowship of believers, we are joining a family of believers. We become part of God's family. We talked about that last year. The love that he had for us and realizing how much he loved us and how much it cost him because of that love to include us in his family. We are his children. Look at the person next to you. They are one of his children. We are family. So it's not just because we agree with the cause. We need to learn to work together and do these things together because we're family. We're brothers and sisters. We're related, whether you like it or not. You can't get rid of family. Brothers and sisters don't always agree. How many of you guys ever fought with your brother and sister a little bit? How many still fight with your brother or sister a little bit? Even though you're not living in the same household, sometimes you still don't get along. You have differences in opinion. Brothers and sisters don't always agree, but they're stuck with each other. And even though they might have little spats now and then, they have a love and respect for each other that goes deeper than the other relationships they have. Even though they may not always agree, and they may sometimes discuss those disagreements, when the day is over, we're brothers. We're sisters. We're family. Let's get beyond that, and let's continue being family. Last week in the first part of John chapter 3, John introduced the idea of family by talking about the great love God has for us. He loves us so much, he did everything within his power to make it possible for us to be called his children. In verse 2, John says, we are his children. And then for the rest of last week's passage, he talked about how children should reflect their father. If we're really God's children, we should act like God. But he ends the passage we looked at last week by talking about too many times we actually resemble another father. Instead of imitating our heavenly Father, we end up imitating our old father, the father that Jesus purchased us from. We end up imitating our father, the devil. 1 John 3, chapter 10, he says, so now we can tell who are the children of God and who are the children of the devil. Anyone who does not live righteously and does not love other believers does not belong to God. Those are the three themes we talked about. Truth. Actions speak louder than words. You can say anything you want. You can put any bumper sticker on your car you want. You can wear any t-shirt you want. But people are going to know whether or not you really belong to Jesus by your actions. They will know we are Christians, not by our bumper sticker, not by our t-shirt, not because we go to church every Sunday, because how many of you know there's a lot of people sitting in our churches that don't have the one thing Christians should have? They don't have the love. They will know you are Christians by your love. Actions speak louder than words. Obedience. If we are truly followers of Christ, we must obey his commands. His children listen to him. They follow his commands. And love. One of his commands is to love one another. It doesn't matter what you claim to be. It's what you do that defines you. That almost sounds like something from a movie, doesn't it? Just a little twist on something. Some of you guys kind of recognize that. It doesn't matter what you claim to be. It's what you do that defines you. True children of God are characterized by righteousness and love. The entire gospel story can essentially be boiled down to one four-letter word: love. John begins the next section by saying that the message which we have heard from the beginning is love one another. Verse 11, this is the message you have heard from the beginning. We should love one another. Now you're going to say, hey, didn't we just talk about love a few weeks ago? Yes, we did. But John thought it was important enough to repeat. We're repeating. In fact, we're going to repeat it one more time. He said it 3 times. His church didn't get it. And you know what? I sometimes don't get it. I need the reminder. Sometimes I don't love like I should. I need the reminder. Jesus kept reminding people about love. No matter how many times you've heard it, we need the reminder. And I'm going to tell you right now, we're talking about love today. We're talking about loving each other today. If you have arrived and you've got all the love you need and you don't need a reminder, feel free to leave right now. But the rest of us, we need to stay here, because we all need improvement in this category. There is no new message. The message that begins with our Christian experience continues through our Christian life. The command to love originates in Jesus himself and is the foundational teaching of Christianity. The gospel is based on 3 loves. If you read the Bible, the whole gospel, at least the New Testament, the gospel is based on 3 loves: God's love for us, our love for him, and our love for others. Last week we talked about his love for us. When we recognize how much he loved us, we should want to love him in return. And one of the ways we love him is to love those that he loves, which means at least our brothers and sisters in Christ, but it's supposed to go beyond that to the world. We're supposed to love everyone. God so loved not just those who were his children, because he didn't have any children at that time. Everybody had rejected him. God so loved the world while we were yet sinners, he died for us. So we've got to learn to love those who aren't even part of the family yet. But until we can learn how to at least love our brothers and sisters, how are we ever going to love those outside the family? Love. God's love for us, our love for him, and because of our love for him, our love for others. It can be explained as God's love coming to us in Jesus Christ, then the same love ascending to him through our faith in Christ, and then that same love again extending first to our brothers and sisters, and then to all mankind. But before telling us what love is, John tells us what love isn't. Verse 12, he says, we must not be like Cain, who belonged to the evil one and killed his brother. And why did he kill him? Because Cain had been doing what was evil, and his brother had been doing what was righteous. Cain killing his brother Abel is a classic example of where the loss of brotherly love can lead. The first murder was when Cain killed his brother Abel in Genesis chapter 4, verses 1 through 8. And in slaying his brother, Cain proved that he really was not one of God's children. He belonged to the enemy. John just said that. He said we can tell who belongs to God and who belongs to the devil by watching what they do. Cain showed, no matter what he claimed, he showed who he belonged to by what he did. John 8:44, the other book written by John, the Gospel of John. John says, you are the children of your father, the devil, and you love to do the evil things he does. He was a murderer from the beginning. He has always hated the truth because there is no truth in him. When he lies, it is consistent with his character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. And John 10:10 says, the thief's purpose, the thief is the devil. The devil's purpose is to steal, to kill, and to destroy. So when we're doing one of those things, and we may not be killing somebody physically, but we could be killing them emotionally or killing them spiritually, or we're trying to tear them down somehow, belittle them, talk bad about them. That's all causing destruction towards somebody. When we do that, we are not showing we belong to God. We are showing that we are children of the devil, because that's his job. The devil came to steal, to kill, and destroy. What did God or what did Jesus come to do? He came to give life, and life abundantly. We should be building people up. We should be encouraging people. We should be spurring each other on. Yes, sometimes that takes correction. That's part of what we do as Christian brothers and sisters. We're supposed to help our brothers and sisters realize when they're off track, but we do that out of love because our goal is not to destroy them. Our goal is to make them better because we love them. He says the devil has been a murderer from the beginning. His origin and orientation is rebellion, lies, hate, and murder. If we murder someone, it shows that we are children of the original murderer. The original murderer was not Cain. We say the first murder was when Cain killed his brother Abel. Cain was not the first murderer. The first murderer was Satan. And he's the one that filled Cain with the ideas to kill his brother. Cain was simply carrying out the actions of his spiritual father. And the last part of the verse explains why Cain killed his brother. Why did he kill him? Because Cain had been doing what was evil, and his brother had been doing what was righteous. And we don't really have time to go into that. Why did he kill his brother? All that kind of stuff. If you really need to know, you can come talk to me later. I'll try to fill you in on that. I actually talked to the youth about this a couple of weeks ago. We talked about Cain and Abel and what the sin was and how one was righteous and how one was unrighteous. The Bible's not real clear on that. But basically, it was jealousy. But the jealousy was because Abel did the right thing, Cain didn't. But because God accepted Abel, Cain got mad, and he took it out on his brother. Instead of going to God and repenting and saying, hey, God, I repent, I did things wrong, he took it out on his brother, because we never like to see somebody else get something better than what we have. Cain was living in darkness. Darkness does not like light. When children of the devil get around people that are children of God, they feel uncomfortable because the darkness in them is exposed. Because Cain's works were evil and unacceptable, and Abel's were righteous and acceptable, Cain became jealous. And the resentment festered until it became hatred. And that hatred ended in murder. Verse 13 explains that that's why the world hates us. It says, don't be surprised, dear brothers and sisters, if the world hates you. Jesus also said we should not be surprised if the world hates us. John 15:18, Jesus said, if the world hates you, remember it hated me first. Now let me tell you something. We don't go out deliberately trying to get the world to hate us. But if everybody out there loves you and thinks you're the greatest thing in the world, you might want to examine what you're doing. Because there will be some things about us they don't like because we speak the truth. And they don't like the truth. Now, we need to make sure we speak the truth in love. Okay, we can't just go out standing in a street corner with a sign, repent or burn. I'd like to know how many people ever come to Christ because they saw some guy on there with a sign saying, repent or burn. That's not how we win the world. But we do need to be honest, but we need to do it out of love. And there will be some people that won't like it because they don't like how it makes them feel because they know they're not living right. And that will make them hate us. In verse 14, John reiterates that you can tell which family tree a person is part of by looking at their actions. Verse 14 says, if we love our brothers and sisters who are believers, it proves that we have passed from death to life. But a person who has no love is still dead. Now, when it's talking dead, it's not talking about not breathing. It's talking spiritually dead. You are still dead in sin. If you do not love, you have not come to life. You're not part of that abundant life that Jesus promised. If you do not love, you are still part of the old life, the dead life, the devil's life. So far, the admonition from John hasn't been too bad because he's talking about murder. We all know we should love each other, and none of us think of murdering anybody, so we're doing okay, right? Because we haven't murdered somebody. But in verse 15, John says, anyone who hates a brother or sister is really a murderer at heart. And you know that murderers don't have eternal life within them. He says hatred is the same thing as murder because it is the root of murder. And I don't care whether it's a mass murderer or somebody who just, killed somebody in the family or something, it still started the same place. You've got something against somebody, or you've got something against a group of people, so you take it out on them by taking their life. It starts with hatred. I don't like this person, or I don't like this group of people. And if that hatred festers and grows, eventually it leads us to do something that we never would have thought of doing. Most murderers don't just get up one morning and say, I think I'll kill somebody today. It comes to that, but it's because they've been harboring resentment. They've been harboring prejudice. They've been harboring hatred for years. And they keep thinking about that and dwelling on that, and they keep allowing that hatred to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until finally it gets to the place they go, hey, I've got to do something about this. Instead of saying, you know what? I'm not going to allow this hatred to be there. I am going to pray. I'm going to get right with God. I'm going to do whatever. I am going to turn this hatred into love. John says hatred's the same as murder. Murder is in the heart before it's in the hand. Cain had hatred in his heart before he took action on the hatred. Our actions come from our character and attitude. And hatred has no place in the Christian's heart, neither towards another Christian or towards any other person. The only thing a Christian should hate is sin. Jesus hated sin, but you know what? He loved the sinner. There's a difference. We should hate sin, but we love the sinner. And unless we can learn to love the sinner, they will keep on sinning. They've got to first see our love, and it'll take them a while. At first, they'll react, but after a while, if we continue to love them, I think it's amazing that the people that were attracted to Jesus were the sinners after a while. The religious people, they didn't like Jesus. In fact, it was the religious people that nailed him to the cross. The sinners, after a while, said, you know what? We may not agree with this guy, but he loves us. He treats us with respect. And those are the people that Jesus came for. Jesus even took it farther than John does. Because Jesus didn't just condemn hatred, or didn't just condemn hatred. John says if you hate somebody, it's as bad as murdering. Jesus said it's not just the hatred. This is what Jesus said. Matthew chapter 5, verses 21 and 22, he says, you have heard that our ancestors were told, you must not murder, and if you commit murder, you are subject to judgment. But I say, if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. If you call someone an idiot, you are in danger of being brought before the court. And if you curse someone, you are in the danger of the fires of hell. You know how many times somebody has cut me off on the highway and I've said, you idiot! But you know what? I'm not calling, it's the car. I'm calling their car an idiot. I'm not calling them an idiot. Most Bible translations use the original Hebrew word raka. If you call anyone raka or say raka to anyone, even the NIV, which is a newer translation, uses that. I think it's amazing that they translate almost everything else and try to put it in modern English, but they use that one word. Anyone who says raka has already committed murder. But the closest equivalent we have in English is idiot or fool. You fool. You idiot. And some people do idiotic things. Some people do foolish things. But you know why? Because they haven't arrived yet. They don't have full understanding yet. And if we want to be honest, there are times when I do idiotic things or I do foolish things. People do sometimes act like fools, but that doesn't make them a fool. It doesn't make them an idiot. Raka was a Hebrew word of contempt. If someone said you are raka, it essentially meant you're worthless or you're not worth my time. You're so far below me, I'm not even going to give you the time of day. The root of the word means to spit on. Hebrew and Greek were rich languages. We don't have the equivalent, so it's hard to translate it into English. But when we call someone a fool or an idiot, we're essentially saying, you're inferior to me, so I don't care about you or what you have to say. I don't have to listen to you because I know more than you do. And you know what? You might know more than they do. But we need to pray for them instead of ignoring them and having contempt towards them. Hatred is the root or the beginning of murder. Hatred is in essence the wish that the other person was no longer here. The presence of hatred is an indication that one does not belong to the family of God. Christianity begins in the heart. Outward compliance alone is not sufficient because we can fake some of these things. It was one of the questions on our men's group yesterday morning. By the way, man, every other Saturday, so we met yesterday, so we won't meet again next Saturday, but the Saturday, every other Saturday at 8 o'clock, we meet here at the church. We have something, sometimes just donuts, sometimes it's something a little bit more. And, if you don't like donuts, you don't have to eat. You can eat something before you come or eat something when you go home. Sometimes it's more, one day we had biscuits and gravy. But we get together 8 o'clock. We have something to eat, and we have coffee. We talk and just fellowship, getting to know each other, and then we study the Bible a little bit together. Right now, we're discussing 1 John. The men decided they wanted to continue what we're doing on Sunday mornings and make that our discussion for Saturdays. And so we talked about that yesterday. One of the questions we had was, can a person do righteous things without being a true follower of Christ? And the answer is yes. There are a lot of people who know what's right and wrong, whether or not they're believers or not, and they do the right things. Right things will not get you into heaven. Jesus said, on Judgment Day, there's going to be a lot of people who say, but I went to church every Sunday. I read my Bible every day. I helped at the homeless shelter. Righteous deeds alone do not do it. We can fake righteous deeds. But if we are truly part of God's family, we don't have to fake it. See, if you have to stop and think about, should I help this person? You need to say, God, I need more of you. Because when we see somebody in need, it should automatically happen. It shouldn't be something we have to argue with ourselves. Should I? Shouldn't I? It should just be, yes! Love them. It should come out of you. You can't pass them up because you are God's children. You have His DNA, and it flows from you. A visitor at the zoo was chatting with the keeper of the lion house. I have a cat at home, said the visitor, and your lions act just like my cat. Look at them sleeping so peacefully. It seems a shame that you have to put those beautiful creatures behind bars. My friend, the keeper, laughed. These may look like your cat, but their disposition is radically different. There's murder in their hearts. You'd better be glad the bars are there. The only reason some people have never actually murdered someone is because of the bars that have put up to keep them from murdering someone. The bars of, if I do this, I'll be arrested. I'll be fined. I'll have to go to court. I'll have to, I'm going to have to pay retribution somehow. There's things that people think about it. I'd like to, but I know better because there's these laws in place. The question of guilt is not so much what did you do, but what did you want to do? Or what did you think about doing? But I'd never kill him myself, but I'm sure hoping somebody else takes him out. God, strike him with lightning. I know I can't do it, but God, you can. Will you help me out here? I'm sure we'd all rather have someone hate us or be angry with us than kill us. But in God's sight, they're the same. Hatred and anger are just as bad as murder in God's eyes. Let me stop for a minute and remind you of our teaching last week. We often have the tendency to read some of these passages and get legalistic about them. We all get angry with someone on occasion. We all have evil thoughts about someone on occasion. But the key is, what do we do with those thoughts? Do we dwell on those thoughts and allow them to grow? Or do we ask God to forgive us and move on? See, John said, those who belong to Him cannot continue to sin, will not practice sinning. We all have those things come in. But we need to say, this is not of God. God, help me. I need more of you. And as we talked in the series of the Holy Spirit, you know what helps me? When I realize I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, instead of just saying, God, help me, or Jesus, help me, and that's good, I say, God, fill me with your Holy Spirit. Apparently, I've leaked. I'm not as full of the Spirit as I should be, because when I am full of the Spirit, I do not sin. When I'm full of the Spirit, I don't get angry. When I'm full of the Spirit, I don't have animosity towards somebody. You know, when I'm full of the Spirit, it doesn't matter what somebody says to me. It doesn't upset me. It's like, God, help me love them somehow. So I say, God, give me more of your Spirit. I'm not enough like you. I need your Spirit. And when that Spirit comes in, those feelings of anger and animosity and bitterness, they flee because they can't live with the Spirit of God. Do we dwell on the thoughts and allow them to grow, or do we ask God to help us forgive and move on? A true child of God will not continue in or practice hatred, just like a true child of God will not continue in or practice sin. We can't justify hatred, lust, or any other evil practice and call ourselves a child of God, because Christ died to free us from the old nature. That's part of our old life. In verse 16, John brings us back to the example that we should be patterning our lives after. We know what real love is because Jesus gave up his life for us. So we also ought to give up our lives for our brothers and sisters. Until we can totally grasp the reality of how much God loves us, we'll never be able to have the kind of love that we should have for others. That's why John instructed us to never lose the wow factor of God's love. Remember that from last week? Wow. What incredible love he has. If we can't understand that, wow, how much he loved us, we'll never have the kind of love for other people we need to have. We need to constantly remind ourselves, man, God loved me this much. And because he loved me this much, I'm going to love the people that he loves. Now let's see, which ones are those? God so loved the world. All of them. I'm going to tie my shoe real quick. Is that okay? Some of you guys probably watch this. When's he going to trip? I'm going to tie it before I do trip. There we go. I need to learn to double knot my shoes because they're always coming untied. I think it's kind of cool. John 3:16 and 1 John 3:16 are kind of companion verses. We all know what John 3:16 says. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son. It talks about God's part. God so loved the world, he sent his son Jesus. 1 John 3:16 is the companion verse. It talks about what Jesus did in that. God so loved the world, he sent his son Jesus, but Jesus loved the world so much, he actually came. Says he loved us so much that he died for us. He gave his life for us. True love is being willing to give our life for someone else. Love means crucifying our own wants and our own desires so that someone else can have something better. In the next two verses, John explains that true love isn't just in the heart. Just like murder starts with a thought, so does love. However, the action that follows hatred is not good. The action that follows love is. Love should not stay in our hearts. It should be expressed in our attitude or in our actions. It should be expressed in our actions. Reminds me of the husband and wife. The wife one day told her husband, she said, "You never tell me you love me anymore." He said, "Yeah, I told you 35 years ago when we got married I loved you. And unless I tell you something different, it hasn't changed." Well, you know, we can say it, but if he was actually doing something, she wouldn't even have to ask the question. It needs to show in our actions. The words don't even mean. We say, "Well, I love them." Do they know you love them? What have you done to demonstrate that love? Jesus said, "I love you and I will show you that love. I will give up what I have for you because I love you." Verses 17 and 18 says, if someone has enough money to live well and sees a brother or sister in need, but shows no compassion, how can God's love be in that person? Dear children, let's not merely say that we love each other. Let's show the truth by our actions. The love that John's talking about goes beyond feelings. It's deeper than words. Feelings will often play a part in love, but they're never the whole picture. We weren't saved by God's feelings. We were saved by God's love in action. The love of Christ was displayed in the vulnerability, the humility, and the obedience at the cross. It's not just a passive love. The love of God is not just tender affection or heartwarming sympathy. God loved us so much that He gave. And Jesus loved us so much that He came and He died. True love doesn't just talk. It does something. The greatest act of love is giving one's life for others. But giving your life to us doesn't usually mean the same thing it meant for Jesus. Jesus gave His life by dying. Most of us will never have to die for someone. Now, if it comes to my wife or kids or something, you can bet I would die for them. You know, some of you, I'm still working on that. I'm just being honest. But most of us will never have to actually give our life physically for someone. But we can give our lives by serving one another. The Bible talks about, they had one of those, serve one another in love. Pray for one another because of love. Encourage one another because of love. We give our actions to other people. We give our lives by doing because of love. In these days of numerous social agencies, it's easy for Christians to shirk their responsibilities. Well, there's that agency, there's this place, there's that place. And, we want to be careful before we just give handouts because, we want to make sure they're going to use it wisely or something. I very seldom, unless I really feel the Holy Spirit prompting me to give somebody cash, I very seldom give somebody cash. I have taken people to the gas station and filled up their tank with gas. That's what they say they need. Okay, let me help you out with gas. Or they say they need food, so I've gone down and bought them a hamburger and brought them food or given them sometimes McDonald's. I used to carry McDonald's gift certificates with me all the everywhere I went. So when I saw somebody, I could just hand them those gift certificates. And, I've had people say, I don't want that, I want money. Well, then you don't really want to eat. We want to be careful, but we can't just say, oh, there's the mission, there's this, there's that. I have people come and sometimes we're looking for lodging. Can you get me a hotel room? So, well, I'm not going to get you. And again, there have been times when I felt the Holy Spirit saying, yeah, pay for a room for one night or something. It's a rare occasion. I said, you know what? There's Camp Hope. There's the mission. I'd be happy to take you down there. I could just say, it's down there, walk. But I'd be happy to take you there. We do something. And if there was no room, because I said, well, I've already been there, they don't have any room. I said, let's call. Hey, do you have any room tonight? Yeah? Oh, okay, I'm going to bring somebody to you. Follow up on what they say, but do something. Don't just say, oh, there's other places. Somebody else can help. If you have the ability to help, and maybe you don't have the ability to help them financially, but can you give them a ride? Can you make a phone call to somebody else who can help them? Do something. It's too easy for us to say, oh, there's somebody else do it. Or the Bible talks about, sometimes we say, I'll pray for you. Great, we should pray. Unfortunately, sometimes we say, I'll pray for you, and we don't even follow through on that. It's just a way for us to get rid of somebody. I'll make them think I care. I'll tell them I'll pray for them. And we should pray for them. Because even when I help somebody with gas or help somebody, they have a need, and I always make prayer part of it. Okay, I'll fill your tank, but can I pray with you too? And I always try to talk to them a little bit about their spiritual condition too, because a lot of times there's a spiritual condition that brought them to the place where they're at. But we need to take it more than prayer. And maybe we can't help them financially. Maybe we can't actually meet that need. But can we take a little bit of time to help direct them to somebody who can? That's what love does. Love doesn't just send them on their way. It's easy for us to say somebody else will do it or that place will do it. That's why we have this. That's why we pay taxes. That's why we... Galatians chapter 6, verse 10 says, whenever we have the opportunity, we should do good to everyone. Everybody say everyone. Everyone. Because that word's important. Because then it says, especially to those in the family of faith. That's what we've been talking about. If we can't do it for one another, how are we ever going to do it for there? But it can't just stop here. We're supposed to do good for everyone. How often? Whenever we have the opportunity. So when God brings somebody into your path, you need to recognize that as an opportunity. And I pray every morning, well, not every morning, almost every morning. God, bring somebody to me today. Give me a divine appointment. Sometimes it brings me more. There's some days I don't get anything done on my agenda because God has another agenda for me. But God, bring people to me that need to experience your love. And allow me to see them as divine opportunities to show your love. Don't let me see them as an interruption. Instead, let me see them as my mission, as part of your family. And there are some weeks when I say, man, this whole week has been meeting this need and meeting that need and talking to this person and talking to that person. How am I ever going to get my message ready for Sunday? But you know what? It always happens. Because when God's in it, God will make sure you still have time left over to do the things you want to do. Whenever we have an opportunity, we should do good. Whatever we can do. We can't do it all, but we should do something. If we're going to help somebody, we must meet the following conditions. First, we must know that the need exists. Second, we must have the ability to meet the need. And third, we must have a love for the individual. John's talking primarily about the third condition because we see needs all the time. We just try to pretend we didn't see them. It's kind of like the Good Samaritan story. The first two people saw the need, but they pretended it didn't exist. They saw it. We don't have a problem of seeing needs. We have a problem of loving enough to do something about it. Do we have love for others? If we have love, we will do something. We might not have the financial freedom or other means to do it ourselves, but do we love someone enough to make a phone call or help them? Acts chapter 3, verse 6. You're all going to know the story as soon as I say this verse. Peter said, I don't have any gold or silver for you. The man needed money. That's how he lived. He says, can you give me some money? He couldn't work because he's physically handicapped. He says, can you help me out? And most people would say, here's a penny. Here's a nickel. Here's a dime. Okay, I did my job. Peter and John say, you know what? I can't give you what you're asking for. But you know what? I can give you something better. I can't give you that, but I can give you this. We all have something we can give. Look beyond what they're asking for and say, what can I do? And ask the Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit, how can I help this? I can't do that. But Holy Spirit, what can I do? And then do it. I don't have any silver or gold, but I'll give you what I have. A believer who is too poor to help or who does not know about a need is not condemned. But a believer who hardens his heart towards another or sticks his head in the sand because he doesn't want to see a need, like the priest and the Levite in the Good Samaritan story, is condemned. And one of the reasons that Christians should be hard workers is so that they will have the means to help those in need. We say, well, I want a job that will provide for the needs for my family, and I'm going to do just enough necessary to get what I need. Read Ephesians chapter 4, verse 28. It says that we should be hard workers to take care of our families, but it goes beyond that. It says, and be able to help those in need. We should say, God, give me enough that I can be a blessing to other people. Don't just give me my daily bread. Give me my daily bread and a little additional that I can share with somebody else. But too often when God blesses us with something, we say, oh, thank you, God, and we go out and see how we can spend it on ourselves instead of saying, maybe God gave this to me because... I think I told this story, but I was at Home Depot picking up some stuff for the church. And I hadn't had lunch yet, so I thought I'll go to Burger King and I'll pick up lunch while I'm there. And so I went through them, and I was going to get the Big Mac meal. And it's like $9 something for the meal. And I saw they had this on the menu. It says 2 for $5. For $5, I could get 2 Big Macs. I didn't have the fries and the drink and stuff, but I'm heading back to church. I can get water here at the church. I didn't need the drink and the fries I didn't really need. I just wanted something. So, okay, hey, 2 for $5 versus, almost $10 for the whole meal. I think I'll get 2 Big Macs. But I can't eat 2 Big Macs. I probably could, but I don't need to eat 2 Big Macs. What am I going to do with the extra Big Mac? But I'm a cheapskate, and that, so I thought, I'll just put one in the fridge, or I can put it in the microwave, I can heat it up, I can have it, or maybe when I get back, maybe Isaiah will be there, I can offer Isaiah a Big Mac or something, I don't know what I'm going to do with the extra Big Mac. I got 2 blocks from Home Depot, and there's a kid standing out in the corner with a sign saying, "Hungry, please help." I said, that's why I have an extra Big Mac. God knew I was going to run into this kid. And so I did a U-turn, and I came back around. I said, hey, I have an extra burger. Would you like it? Oh, thank you. I haven't eaten in 2 days. God blessed me with the extra Big Mac so I could be a blessing to somebody else. Where was I? One of the reasons Christians should be hard workers is so they have the means to help others, not just so they can hoard themselves. Verses 19 and 24, today's text, John sums up what he said in the previous verses. He says, our actions will show that we belong to the truth, so that we will be confident when we stand before God. Even if we feel guilty, God is greater than our feelings, and He knows everything. Dear friends, if we don't feel guilty, we can come to God with bold confidence. And we will receive from Him whatever we ask because we obey Him and do the things that please Him. And this is commandment. We must believe in the name of His Son, Jesus Christ. We also, I do that. Great. Do you do the next part? And love one another, just as He commanded us. We cannot love God without obeying His commandments, and one of His commandments is love one another, whether we like it or not. Those who obey God's commandments remain in fellowship with Him, and He with them. And we know He lives in us because the Spirit He gave us lives in us. John says if we are doing what Christ commands, if we are loving like He says to love, then we are at rest in our hearts. There is just a feeling about being able to help somebody else and loving them the way Jesus loved them. It's just like, it feels good. I think that's the abundant life right there. Being able to help somebody else. Deep down, we know whether or not we're following Christ's commands. His commands are love God, love people. What's the third one? There's really 3 things. There's 3 commands that Jesus gave us. Love God, love people. What's the third one? Share Christ. That's it. Everything else in this book comes down to those 2 things. Love God. And if we love God, we're going to love people. And if we love people, we're not going to want them to go to hell, so we're going to share Christ with them. 3 things. If we just do those 3 things, we've accomplished the whole purpose of God. If we know we're following these commands, then we can have a confidence to come before Him and ask anything. Because God says, yes, I am pleased with you. You're doing what I commanded you to do. Ask me anything. I'll give it to you. But we don't ask selfishly. If we do ask, we ask either because we really need it or because we want it so we can help someone else. God loves to give good gifts to His children. Psalms 37:4 says, take delight in the Lord and He will give you the desires of your heart. If we know that we're not following God's commands, then we don't have the confidence we need to ask for anything, or we really don't even have the right to ask for anything. God, I know I'm not doing what you told me to do, but can I have this anyway? What do you tell your kids? Can I have some dessert? No, you didn't eat your vegetables. Dad, can I do? No, because you didn't. If we're not doing what God asks us to do, we don't have any right to ask Him for anything. He says, do this first, then I'd be happy to give it to you. A Christian teacher, I'm going to close with this. A Christian teacher once asked her students to draw a picture of someone they disliked or someone who made them angry. Why would a Christian teacher do that? Let me continue. She said, draw a picture of someone you dislike or someone who makes you angry. And after you're done, I'm going to let you throw darts at the picture. One girl drew a picture of a girl who had stolen her boyfriend. Another student drew a picture of her brother. One student drew a picture of the school bully. One student drew a picture of the teacher. When everyone had finished drawing the pictures, the teacher hung them one at a time over a paper target that she had previously stapled to the wall. And the class lined up and took great joy in throwing darts at the pictures they had drawn. Once everyone had finished, the teacher had each of the students take their seats and remove the target from the wall. And underneath the target was a picture of Jesus. A complete hush fell over the room as each student viewed the mangled picture of Jesus. There were so many holes and marks that his face was barely recognizable. The teacher then cited the words of Matthew 25:40. I tell you the truth, when you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you were doing it for me. See, sometimes we think of that only as what we do for others, but it's also what we don't do for others we're not doing for Christ. The bad things that we do or the animosity we feel towards somebody is towards Christ. Yes, there are people that treat us poorly. There are people that are hard to love. And we sometimes want to teach them a lesson, and sometimes they deserve to be taught a lesson, but that's not our place. Jesus loved them enough. He already died and took the punishment for their sins. When we refuse to forgive them or refuse to love them, it's like putting Jesus back on the cross and making him take the punishment all over again. Our Christianity is somehow stained by a love that is shallow and far from the biblical love or from the love that's portrayed by the Bible. In our text, John has told us what true Christian love is. And he says that love is never true love unless it's expressed in action. Real love is constant and always puts the wants and needs of others ahead of our own wants and needs. Verse 18 from our text today said, Dear children, let's not merely say that we love each other. Let's show the truth by our actions. We can't love God without loving others.